2011 GT3. So we're attaching the under tray to this. I already drilled the top ones. Now, the screws included with the set, I would go just ever so slightly smaller than they are to drill out the holes. And my biggest tip when screwing them in is if there's any real resistance, take it out and re-drill it bigger. You do not want to crack this resin. It does have a shear factor. It'll literally just crack. But we'll drill those out now, just primarily because we're going to start attaching the interior, of which the first in is the dashboard. So some strategically placed blobs of CA glue. I'm a little bit off camera, I do apologise. We'll get the dashboard glued in place, or so I thought. It fell out. So we'll get it back in. So sometimes super glue just needs holding for that little bit longer. It just does. And I always find on these dashboards as well, a little bit of glue just underneath where it can't be seen pays off as well. Just to hold it in place, but hold it for a few seconds and it should grab. A quick test fit of the door cards as well. Now, another top tip with these kits is don't glue anything in place without test fitting it first. So we've had all the interior in before. We've had the dashboard in, the door cards, and the interior tub in to make sure it all fits. And once you're happy, we can get a bit of glue in there. Now, a little bit springy, these. So I thought I'll hold on to them for a little bit, which wasn't quite enough. So I made a little support out of a cotton bud. And there we go, just gently pushed it in place. And that held it open enough, or closed enough rather, to keep the parts separated. Once that's glued in place, we can pop our interior tub in. It's a snug fit, but it does fit in there well. That green roll cage really livening up that interior. Because at this point I was thinking, uh-oh, what's wrong here? And then I realised what it was. You just need a little bit of a click in place. There it is. And there you go, there's our interior in. Now, when we're handling parts like this with CA glue, make sure you haven't got any on your finger. You don't want to ruin all your hard work on the exterior and the screws. Like I say, minimal resistance on the screw. You shouldn't really feel anything at all. It should screw in absolutely perfectly. Sadly, every one of these Alpha Models kits I've had, they come with random screws of different shapes and sizes. So there's no set drill size I use on these. I just measure it against the screw it in place. If I feel any resistance at all, I stop, take it out, and re-drill the hole. Not the best fitting procedure. The screws could be better. Black screws would be a start. Countersunk holes would be another good point as well, but it is what it is. And I'll be honest, I can never remember lifting one of these cars up and looking underneath the chassis because, to be honest, there's not a lot to look at on most of these kits. Now, with the rear lights, I thought I'm going to smoke these. By the look of the real car, they look smoked. A lot of pictures show this central bar lit on most of the cars, but when I've seen the car kind of switched off, it's not lit. So I did contemplate painting it red, and then looking at pictures of the real car, they appear to be smoked. So that's what I went for. Whether that's completely right, I don't know, but it's what I've done here. So we've got some LP67, which I've thinned ever so slightly with some Tamiya lacquer thinner with retarder. No real measurement, just a guess and a swirl. There we go. And then we've got a couple of light coats down and then a wet coat, and that is it. I don't want to put a lot down on this at all. Same on these side marker lights as well. Get a little bit of a mist coat down. Let it flash off for a second or two. And that's it. Job done. I don't want to darken these a lot because they can look a little bit too dark. If you find that the thin mixture is not covering well, a good tip I've got is this. Go with an unthin mixture. You can see how much quicker it covers. And it will go on, but it will look a little bit rough. And then my tip after that would be spray it with either a little bit of neat thinner or with your thinned mixture of paint. And that works really well. So like I said, I don't want to go too mad on these. Just enough to give it a light tint. And obviously we've painted where they're going to go silver as well on the back. So I've used some Vallejo Model Air Silver, just painted the backs of all those pieces we just tinted. And then with some not gluing glaze, so craft bond, we'll glue them in later on. So this is one of the side trim pieces, the follow-ups from the front bumper. So it's just LP5 semi-gloss, held in place with the craft bond again, Just push it in place. They fit really well. They are handed, so make sure you get the right one on each side. There we go. And then a quick test of the front insert, and it clicks in place very positively as well. So much so it doesn't even need any glue, but we will glue it later on. I'm not going to pop it in place just yet. Headlights, we've got some photo etch to go inside as well. Just refer to instructions, you can see them on the bench there. So a little bit of the craft bond, a little bit of the PE, a little bit of the PE, the PE. And obviously, again, the beauty of the craft bond is if you get too much on, you can wipe it off. There is a PE reflector for the back of the light that just sits in there. And then the clear resin piece just sits in on top. A little bit of the craft bond PVA glue in there. We can get it in place. There's the rear reflector. So we'll just pop that in the back of the other one. Like so. Delicate touch is needed here. And obviously keeping the parts mounted to their pull plug is helpful as well. There we go. And then some craft bond at the back, at the bottom. And this is where this glue is invaluable. If you get it on the body, it just wipes straight off with no damage whatsoever. Whereas CA glue just causes an unholy mess if you get it anywhere. It really does. Make sure you get the light buckets in the right way. Craft bond has got more than enough purchase to hold these pieces in. And it's mess free, it doesn't haze. I've had haze enough CA glue creep through parts. And see there, I got that little bit of extra then. Not a problem at all. We can pop it in place, wipe most of it off with our finger. There we go. Job done. Fuss free, simple and clean. Now the light lenses, we're going to do the old Sharpie trick around the outer edge. So what I tend to do here is leave the pour stub on. So the pour stub is where the resin's been poured, and there's a piece where it's attached to basically, well, hold it in place. So I go all around the pour stub, like so, and then we'll cut it off. And I find on the clearer parts of resin, don't sand. Not always. On pieces like this, I think it's beneficial sometimes just to get a knife and just very carefully, away from your fingers or towards your thumb, just scrape away the excess. Super smooth. Go over it with a Sharpie, and there you go. You'll never know it was there. And again, a couple of splodges of the craft bond. Get this glued in place, and you could even see it afterwards. Now, sadly, the clear headlight lenses on this kit are terrible. They're not very clear at all. They're opaque. They look like old headlight lenses that need a good polish up. But we're going to go with what we've got. I did give them a good clean up. It is what it is. Same on the other side. Get it in place. Just how amazing does that paintwork look? It looks absolutely beautiful. Like I say, the craft bond, absolutely brilliant. Get a cotton bud to wipe off the excess. Make sure it's in place. Job done. Same on the rear lights as well. We've got the silver painted light cluster in place. Again, craft bonded in place. We've painted the center bar where the light goes over as well. That was painted with Velodal. It's a new paint. With Vallejo Model Air silver. We're just going to spread out the glue a little bit so it's not as thick. And then place these lights in. Now these lights, the first time you do lights like this on a Porsche, and I've done several now, it's confusing as hell how they go in. But once you've got your head around how they sit, you're like, ah, okay. So we just need to position them in place. Obviously, we don't have that instant complete grab of CA glue. So there's a lot of time to move the parts around. So with both of those in, we can get the central bar in as well. And again, like I say, this glue, absolutely loving this stuff. No worry of ruining anything. Just works absolutely perfect. Obviously, on some parts, you might have to tape them to hold them in place. Or parts like this are a little bit springy. Just make sure you get them sitting right. But once it's got a hold and it's dry, more than adequate for holding the pieces in place. And just completely risk-free of damaging your paintwork. Really good stuff. There we go. We can wipe off any excess with a cotton bud. Definitely not been licked. 100% I have not licked that cotton bud. Okay, maybe a little bit. There we go. That's those all in place. Any residue of paint is gone. We're all pushed fully home. And looking good. Very happy with it. They've got the lower lights in as well, above the rear diffuser. So they've just slotted in place as well, just make sure everything is exactly where I want it. Happy with that. And then we go with our side marker lights. Again, a little tiny bit of craft bond. Spread it out a touch with a stick. Pop it in place. Push it home. Get a cotton bud. Don't lick it. And wipe off the excess. And there we go. Perfect. Same for the other side. Beautiful. Didn't lick that one either. Yep. Wonderful. Right then, this rear grille on the back, yes, it's going to need bending a bit, or rolling. So I use a buffer from UMP, a UMP placing stick, a gentle roll to get it to bend or roll. And then a quick test fit in place. Yep, fits perfect. No problem at all. A little bit of the Tamiya craft bond in there. Figure out which way around we're going. There we go. Pop that in. Wipe off any excess. Job done. And then there's a little panel that goes under the lights as well, which is just LP5 black. So that is popped in as well. And we do have the Porsche photo etch writing to go on here as well, which somehow I managed to not film me putting in place, but very simple to do. Just a craft bond and any excess wiped off like we're doing here. Didn't lick it. There we go. Is that in place? Final wipe over of a moistened, non-licked cotton bud. And now the high-level brake light, which we tinted and painted the back of silver, and the photo etch showing the 4-litre logo as well. Didn't lick that either. Anybody says it did is a filthy liar. Some CA glue on the back. Now I did try using the craft bond. It just didn't have the purchased holder diffuser on. So I just added some CA glue as well. Best of both worlds. CA glue will grab it instantly. The craft bond will grab it eventually. The exhausts, again, cleaned up. And popped in place. They are angled, so make sure you get them the right way around. And we will paint inside these black later on. Make sure they're pushed fully home. And a little bit of CA glue and a light paint points for the front. And a little bit on the edge as well, which will wipe off the excess. And pop this place on. If you remember, this fitted great earlier. So we can just get it in place, hold it for a bit, let the CA glue grab it. And there we go. And then wing mirrors. So I broke the stubs off the wing mirrors, so I've drilled them and pinned them with some brass wire. But that means we also need to drill the door mounts a little bit as well. So I'm just going to deepen these just a touch, not a huge amount. And then we'll cut the wire on the mirror to the right length. My lovely cutters from Andy Callis. Thank you, Andy. And a quick test fit, and then we'll come back to these later on when the windows are in place. With some glues in there, they'll be held in perfect. And then the wheel hubs. Again, make sure you get the right parts in the right place. Make sure you test fit everything. Make sure you got the right hub. Make sure you got the right brake mounting facing the right way, and so on. It's easy to not get it right. The calipers, make sure you get the correct ones on the correct disc. So the smaller ones generally go on the back. and then glued in place. You can add a little bit of glue to the hub. Refer to real life pictures of the car to see the way the caliper's orientated, because some cars, like on this Porsche, they are at funny angles. Of course I am. Like so. And then the front one as well, which generally has the bigger calipers and bigger discs. There's a little slot on the hub for the brake caliper to fit in. So just line it up, then line a hole up for your wheel. Like so. Repeat for the other side, and then we start gluing wheels. And again, don't put glue on anything until you've test fitted every single part. Trust me, been there and done that. There's no going back once wheels are glued in place. You're going to break the wheels getting them off. So don't commit to glue until you are fully happy everything is going to fit in place the way you want it to. There we go. I've checked all the ride height, I've checked the width, the track, everything. Everything fits in perfect. So I know exactly which wheel goes where. And of course, then make sure it all sits straight. Once you get the last wheel in, make sure they're all sitting straight and even at the right angles. Then we go on to the windows. Now, another thing I tried before is the double-sided tape. This is the tape that's used to hold mobile phone screens on. It's a double-sided black tape, so you can't really see it through the window, which is good. I've used this before, and again, I thought, you know what, we'll try loads of new different things today. Let's try this again. Now, on the likes of the back window, it works great because it's a fairly flat-sitting window. There's no flex on it. It works perfect. On the front windscreen, you need the CA glue because of the curve of it. It eventually lifts and lifts the corner because the tape just can't handle it. So I think for parts like this back window, perfect. For the front windows and the side windows, I think CA glue is the way to go. But if you don't try, you don't know. Now, somebody did ask me, would the Tamiya Craft Bond do it? And yeah, it will do, but you have to hold it forever to get it to dry. So if I was going to use a Craft Bond, I'd use it on the back and the sides. I still think that front windscreen, because of the curve in it, is it convex? Yeah, convex. It needs that instant grab of CA glue. So yeah, pick your choice, pick your tool. And again, if you're happy doing it a certain way, don't change. And for me, yeah, rear windows like this, I'll go with tape. Everything else, I'll go with glue. Now, a little tip of these windows is, number one, test fit that they fit before you do anything. And number two, apply a little bit of masking tape like I have, like a handle. And that way you're not touching the glass. Do not touch the plastic underneath. There is a protective film of plastic on the top piece. Underneath is clear. If you get a fingerprint in there, you have to take the car apart to get to it. And usually at this stage, you're past the point of taking it apart. So don't get any fingerprints on the inside. I use a pointed soft cotton bud just to burnish all the edges down. Then we repeat the procedure for the other windows. So yeah, going forward, I think on flat windows like this rear one, I use the tape. I think for everything else, we use our Bob Smith's Gold like we used to. Front windscreen, again, I've got the tape on, and it did work, like I say. I just found it started to lift, and I bet if I look at the car in the display case now, the corners have lifted ever so slightly. Now, you could try and CA glue it, but because the tape has lifted the glass away from the screen, or the mount, the frame, you can have difficulty getting the CA glue to grab. So I think going forward on front screens, we'll definitely use Bob Smith's. I think it's a more reliable way to do it. You just need to be a bit more careful of the application. So again, test fit it, make sure it fits. Use my double-sided, well, the tape as a handle trick. Get it in place where you need it. Burnish it down with your cotton bud. Just keep rubbing until it's held down. And obviously the tape is quicker, it grabs instantly as well. But yeah, I just don't think it's got the permanent adhesiveness of CA glue. But hey, we tried it, and unless you try, you'll never know, will you? There we go. Side windows, I pieced. Not a lot of area on these to actually get a hold of. They've got very small upper and lower window seams, so I could only put a little bit of tape at the front, middle, and back. And it'd be the same story for glue as well, really. So I don't think it would improve the side windows. So yeah, a little bit of a pain on these. There we go. And then the side window in place, again with our little handle on there. And just burnish it down so you're happy it's held it. There we go. Now, obviously, we'll repeat that for the other side as well, but to save time, I'm not going to bother showing that. And we'll leave those protective films on for a little bit longer until we're done with the model a bit. So those side mirrors, we've drilled the holes for them. We've cut down the brass rod to the right size. A little bit of Bob Smith's Gold, CA glue, on the actual brass rod. It only needs a tiny little bit, doesn't need a lot at all. We've got our mirror insert in there as well from the kit, which is just a photo etch kit held in with a bit of craft bond. And just get the mirrors in place, make sure you line them all up and then leave them be. Let them dry. And again, be careful of any CA glue on your fingers because it will ruin all your hard work. As you can see, I put a little bit of craft bond on the top of the window, on the sides, to try and glue them in place. And this has to be the most satisfying part of these builds, peeling this film off the glass. It is really satisfying. As long as you haven't ruined your glass with CA glue, it is a very satisfying part of the build because it really brings the car alive. And although the acetate is a pain in the butt to use, it does actually mimic windows really well. Another frustrating part, I don't mind building these things, I hate putting them on, is the window wipers. Now, where I've cut this, and it looks like I've got it on perfectly straight away, probably took 5 or 6 attempts on each one to get them to sit properly. So they can be a bit tiresome to do, but they look good. And with a bit of CA glue, they get held in place properly. We've got metallic badge from Hobby Design that was in the kit. I did have some of my bubble badges that I'm using on the Ferrari. A few of you may have seen those in a post I did the other day. But I couldn't find them. And then started looking for the Ferrari ones. I found them. But this is the metallic decal. So this just goes in water. It's placed in place. Remove all the water from behind. And that's it. Job done. And they do look really good, to be fair. So not a problem at all. Get any residue off from behind. And then we've got this really awkward, tiny little GT3 photo etch badge here now, which was an absolute nightmare to do. So a few dabs of craft bond. We'll zoom in a bit and just get it in place where we want it. Make sure it's centralized and straight. And again, this is where the craft bond is ideal because it's got enough purchase to get it glued in place. Doesn't make a mess, and you can wipe off any excess when you're done. In fact, you can take it off and start again. Because again, the way I've cut this video, it didn't go on straight away. I fell off twice. It stuck to my finger once, and then stuck to the tweezers the next time. So I wiped it off, put some fresh craft bond on, and glued it in place perfectly. Definitely did not lick that cotton bud. In fact, I don't know where the cotton bud's gone. It's still in my mouth. There we go. Anyway, and then wipe off any excess glue. Just be careful not to knock it. And there we go. That's it. As I say, we've got the Porsche logo badge on the black piece above as well. Exactly the same procedure. Just for some reason I didn't film it. And then our final touch, we've got our glove on, is to give the car a protective sheen. So this is Ultimate Shine. It's just rubbed on. Let it haze up and then buff it off. And yes, me being an idiot, I did knock that GT3 badge off. Yep, so I wiped it off and glued it back in place again. This is the following morning. I always leave the cars overnight and let all that glue dry so that when I'm polishing, I don't grab some fresh glue and smear it out onto the body and ruin all the hard work. I tend to finish these late at night and leave it till the following morning, give it a polish up, and get all my photographs. So actually I haven't there. It's 5 p.m. at night. I can see my watch. So I'll probably finish this about midday. And it's been left for about 5 hours is more than likely what I've done. But I always leave it a number of hours to make sure every bit of glue is dried because we don't be polishing it up like this and then streaking bits of glue everywhere. And then once we're happy, we give it a final buff up with our nice microfiber cloth. And there we go. There is our Porsche done. Now, I think this was my last build of 2023. This was build number 27, I believe it was. Yeah, a good year for builds. If you've looked through my Patreon update, I went through all my builds, and I might do it in an ISM update later on. We'll see. We'll just give everything a light buff up until we get nice and shiny. Yeah, be careful not to knock that badge off again. And there we go. Absolutely beautiful. And the camera does white out a bit because this thing is super bright. But that paintwork is just epically good. It is so shiny. The green is epic. Now, a few of you aren't going to like this without the spoiler on the back. I'm 50-50. I do like the spoiler, but I just love that little... Is it ducktail or duckbill? I always bloody forget. Anyway, the duck spoiler on the back. I love the look of it, and I thought, you know what, I just want to do something different, and I think it looks really pretty like this. The green colour is phenomenal. The paintwork, to toot my own horn, is amazing. The way it's polished up is second to none. Great kit. Really, really enjoyable build, and a great result as well. What a colour, what a shine, and what an epic car this is. Absolutely beautiful. And there we go, some final pictures. So this is the true colour I see to my eye. It is super bright. It really is a super bright colour. So this was primed in Pro Scale White Primer, several coats of Pro Scale Lizard Green. It was given a dark grey Tamiya dark grey Tamiya panel line wash. It was 2K cleared in Pro Scale 2K. The wheels are GX2 gloss black from Mr. Hobby. The calipers are yellow brake caliper colour from Pro Scale. The discs are carbon ceramic from Pro Scale. The interior is Napa black with the lizard green roll cage. Pro Scale flocking for the interior as well. We used some of the carbon decals on the rest of it. It was flatted back with the Trizac 3, 6 and 8,000 pads and polished up with our rotary compound and Menzerner polishes and compounds, and a final coat of Autoglim Super Resin Polish and the ultimate shine. And there we go. That's it. That's build 27 off the bench. Let's go back to me for some final thoughts.